Well, welcome to the New Health Conversation podcast. This is a podcast, it's not an infomercial. We're going to show you today with medical evidence why diets, this whole concept of counting calories is completely outmoded, outdated, whatever. I just saw an influencer on TikTok a few minutes ago, still trying to convince you that the only way to lose weight is by lowering calories. Nothing could be farther from the truth, and nothing could be more unhealthy for you. We're going to show you today exactly the medical proof. We don't, on the New Health Conversation, we don't give you opinions. These are medical studies on traditional diets. We're going to contrast that. The good news is with 7 new peer-reviewed studies that are non-diet, that are so dramatic that men and women with no exercise allowed lost as much weight in 7 days as 8 weeks of any diet, lost as much weight in 30 days as a year on any diet. We're not giving you opinions. We're not making claims. We're reading from the medical studies that are in the public domain. You can actually go and see them. As a matter of fact, I'll type the website where you can go and see the proof. That's our website, the New Health Conversation. What did I do? Oops. Sorry, spelled it wrong. The New Health Conversation. I'm a researcher, not a typist, I guess. Okay, you can see it, the New Health Conversation. Now, why is that important to you? Because at the New Health Conversation, we have all the medical proof, both of traditional diets and conventional diets. We don't make anything up. We don't need to make anything up. We're not making any claims. We want to stay within the rules. We really like TikTok. They have very stringent rules about making claims, etc. We're only sharing with you the absolute peer-reviewed human trial studies of these new studies, along with these other studies. What we're going to prove to you today with the medical proof is that diets counting calories are really, according to the world experts now, they agree they've made a big mistake. The whole idea behind counting calories to lose weight is completely obsolete. This is the New Health Conversation podcast. It's not an infomercial. We're going to share with you exactly what you can do to completely change your trajectory. I mean, maybe you think that diets work, but the evidence we're going to show you today will probably completely change your mind, not because we changed your mind, okay? So this is the New Health Conversation. My name is Peter Greenlaw. I've been a nutritional researcher for 21 years, and I will tell you honestly, despite have written 4 best-selling books, I'm going to show them to you in a minute so you don't think I'm making it up, and doing over 1,500 lectures all over the world, 20 shows on PBS. None of it meant a thing without these peer-reviewed human trial studies. So again, we hope to give you an option to let you see another approach. But it's not just another approach. It's not based on an opinion. It's based on peer-reviewed human trial medical studies. You can see right there, I'm the researcher of the researchers. Let's be clear. It's not my research, but I'm bringing you the research. I've been doing this for 21 years and have worked with some of the top medical doctors, geneticists, molecular biologists, and nutraceutical chemists and nutraceutical researchers in the whole world. I don't tell you that to impress you, but I want to impress upon you that everything that I will share with you will never be an opinion. Opinions shouldn't matter to you. They shouldn't matter to anybody. So I hope this podcast will be very, very enlightening for you, and you'll get a chance to really see the difference. For years, I've lectured over 1,500 times all over the world. The title of my lecture was Toxicity in America. Now we know it's really toxicity in the world. One of the things I'm going to make you aware of today is this new medical syndrome. You can see it's called TDOS. It stands for toxicity. D is for deficiency. The O is for being overweight. And the S is for stress. What's the essence of the TDOS syndrome? That we're now breathing, drinking, and eating chemicals. Lest you not think you're toxic. In about hundreds of peer-reviewed studies now, they show that the average adult has between 1,000 and 1,500 chemicals embedded in our visceral fat. I don't know if you all saw the article about Starbucks coffee about, I think it was 2 or 3 weeks ago, where they said in every cup of Starbucks coffee, you're getting between 50 and 100,000 microplastics. In a plastic water bottle, you're getting between 100,000 and 150,000 microplastics. But it's a lot more than that. It's herbicides, it's pesticides, it's Scotchgard, it's Teflon. Well, it may not be a newsflash, but the point is that you have to understand that it wasn't until 2005, Marty, that we even knew we were storing chemicals in our body, okay? And the point is that these these new studies, which were not designed to be weight loss, they were actually looking, could they assist our own body in removing the chemicals? And thank goodness, through blood, stool, urine, and fat analysis, they proved that this protocol, first and foremost, the main thing it was doing was removing the chemicals that we're storing inside of our fat cells, specifically in the fat cells called our visceral fat. That's the fat around the organs, okay? Now, what I would say to everyone is this, that you certainly are entitled to do if you want to follow any of these influencers, do it, okay? But are any of them showing you one shred of medical evidence? I've never seen one of them. I've seen them, like I just saw this nice young lady, and she came on, she's some kind of weight loss coach, etc., saying, well, the reason you didn't lose weight is you didn't stick to your calorie deficit. You're going to see today, not through opinions, but through medical evidence, that counting calories now is just completely and utterly passé. We're going to get started in about a couple minutes, but I want to let a few more people come on first. So this is the new health conversation. My name is Peter Greenlaw. I've been a nutritional researcher for 21 years. I've written 4 best-selling books, all with medical doctors. I've done 20 shows on PBS. I've done over 1,500 lectures all over the world, including in China. I'm not telling you that to impress you, but I want to impress upon you that I've been, along with the researchers, I've been following the researchers who were doing what? They were looking for the silver bullet, not just for weight loss, but for health. So we've learned an awful lot in 21 years. For example, when I first started, there'd never been a study done on a human being if we were storing chemicals inside our body. That was done by Mount Sinai Medical School, the first one in 2005. Do you believe, everyone on this podcast right now, do you believe we're living in a toxic world? The water, the air, the food. They did a study on 10,000 municipal water supply facilities around this country. And they found an average in every one of those, in every single municipal water supply, between 400 and 600 toxic chemicals. They found things like Lipitor and Crestor and, antidepressants and Valium, etc. Because people, they don't finish their prescription. They put it in the toilet and flush it down. Well, the water treatment plants were never set up to remove chemicals from the water, plus the pesticides and the herbicides that with runoff are falling into the streams and then end up in the water supply. I mean, it's not a terrific, picture. So the TDOS syndrome is a registered trademark U.S. Patent Office. It's not a copyright. It's way beyond that. We're going to get into that in this, but essentially what we're going to do is we're going to show you with these peer-reviewed human trial studies of all the major big diets you've ever heard of. We're going to show you what's the real medical proof behind them. We're also then going to share with you why the experts are saying things like why you shouldn't count calories. Harvard Medical School saying stop counting calories. This big study here saying don't bother counting calories. It's complete nonsense. But I continue to see these influences coming on and telling you that the only way to lose weight is by reducing calories. Well, I think you're going to you're going to get to make a choice. I mean, we're not making claims. We're not doing anything other than sharing with you original content. This is all in the public domain. You can go look it up. But better than that, you can see up there researchers, the new health conversation. You can literally go to that website. It's completely free to go there. We won't contact you if you go to our website. But you'll have the opportunity if you do go there. Yes, I promise, Marty, I will. Just there's so much information. This isn't some lotion, potion, pill, 3 recipes to lose weight and detoxify your body. It's a lot more complicated than that. And I don't mean to be, I'm not being evasive. I'm being honest, okay? We now know, but we didn't know until 2005. We'd never known that we were storing chemicals in our body. Doesn't that sound unbelievable based on, what's going on? And we look at things like there was a big study out of Australia last year where they estimate that every one of us, including you, Marty, and me, and everybody that's on this podcast today, that we're eating the equivalent. Okay, I'll show you. A picture's worth 1,000 words, as my late dad used to say. We're eating the equivalent of one of these per day. A credit card per week in plastic. That's how much plastic is now in our food supply because every canned good is lined with plastic. I just told you about Starbucks coffee. A paper cup is lined with, otherwise if they put the hot liquid in the paper, obviously the paper would melt, it wouldn't work. I'm not making I like Starbucks coffee. I'll probably still be drinking it. But now I know that the need to be able to facilitate our own body or assisting our body in removing chemicals is going to become the really, really big thing, moving forward. I also wrote, this is probably my most famous book, my fourth one, called Your Third Brain. I wrote it with, I know maybe you can see there on the left, with one of the top oncologists in the world who's also a molecular biologist. So in addition to the TDOS syndrome, which you see here, I also wrote the book TDOS Solutions. And my fourth book, I don't have it right here in front of me, is called Why Diets Are Failing Us. I wrote it in 2010. It was a huge bestseller, but it was very controversial. Because one of the things we pointed out in the book was, why are you counting calories? Instead of counting calories, we need to make every calorie count. So for the new people, no, I don't, but I can't know everybody. So what do we eat? Again, Mr. Padilla, I promise we're going to go through all of this. But you have to understand that in medical science and in investigation or in research, you have to understand the volume, magnitude of the problem. So I'm not going to give you some slick answer about, here are 3 recipes to lose weight. It's much more complicated than that. And we now know that every adult on this call would have between 1,000 and 1,500 chemicals embedded in their fat cells. And some of you think, well, I'm in shape, therefore I'm not toxic. Yes, you are. There are study after study saying just because you're thin doesn't mean you're healthy. That's one of the biggest misconceptions out there. I will, maybe if I get time, Mr. Padilla, after that, I'll look up Dr. Sebi. But you've got to understand that I've been the canary in the coal mine for 21 years. But I did, I'll get into that in a moment about my credentials and everything that's involved. But here's the thing that I will promise you, Mr. Padilla or Marty or Vicky or anybody. Their mouth and say, and it takes for someone to open their mouth and say something. Well, yeah, I guess I've been the canary in the coal mine, and I certainly have had my share. What is TDOS? Okay, sorry, let me come back to that. So TDOS stands for T for toxicity, the D for nutritional deficiency, the O for being overweight, and the S for stress. It's a registered trademark, U.S. Patent Office. It's not a copyright, way beyond that. So it's right up there with metabolic syndrome and syndrome X, which you're probably familiar with. Sounds like you're pretty knowledgeable. Most of the people that come on this podcast are very interested in, the scientific proof, okay? Okay, so I've been a nutritional researcher for 21 years. I've written 4 best-selling books. I've done over 1,500 lectures all over the world. I was interviewed on the 4 biggest daytime shows in America, and I did over 20 shows on PBS, okay? The books I've written are all with major medical doctors, okay? MDs, right? And in addition, I've had the great privilege of I have 3 or 4 registered trademarks, and we're going to go into that a little bit. This isn't about me, though. Do you say, why only eat alkaline? No, there's nothing to do with alkaline food. Again, Mr. Padilla, I promise I will share with you exactly what they did in the medical studies. So let's get started. So this is the New Health Conversation podcast. It's not an infomercial, okay? My name is Peter Greenlaw. I've been a nutritional researcher for 21 years. I've written 4 best-selling books with medical doctors. I've done 20 shows on PBS. I was interviewed on the 4 biggest daytime shows in America. And I've done 1,500 lectures all over the world, even been to China. None of that I'm not doing to impress you. I just want to give you the highlight. I've spent 21 years of my life as a researcher, and I'll explain to you why that came about and why I'm so passionate about sharing this information with all of you. So first, let's get started talking about traditional diets, okay? Which, by the way, have no impact on dealing with the TDOS syndrome, again, which is toxicity driven by nutritional deficiency, being overweight, and S. Yes, pesticide DDT. Yeah, it's still in the soil. This dioxin is still in the soil, Marty. You're very, very learned on this. But I've spent 21 years of my life. I was one of the canaries in the coal mine going, wait a minute. Why aren't we talking about these chemicals that we're storing inside of our body? We'll get into all that in a moment. So let me do this in stages. Just trust me, everyone. You don't have to trust me, but stick with me. So first thing I want to talk about is the fallacy around calorie reduction, energy reduction, etc. Let's start with this big article, Why You Shouldn't Count Calories. Remember, none of it's my opinion. None of it's the opinion of the New Health Conversation. So what did they say in the Why You Shouldn't Count Calories? They say the truth is calorie counting is a terrible approach for weight loss. While counting calories, and restricting calories can help you lose weight in the short term, the approach has never been proven to keep weight off long term. Did you hear that? Then they went on. What's even worse is 2/3 of people who try to count or restrict their calories will gain back more weight than they lost. They're quoting from medical studies proving this, okay? But let's not rely on just one. Let's go to Harvard Medical School. The title of this article, Stop Counting Calories. This is Harvard Medical School, probably the top medical school in the whole world. What are they saying? The idea of a calorie in and a calorie out when it comes to weight loss is not only antiquated, it's just wrong, says Fatima Stanford, obesity specialist at Harvard Medical School. She goes on to say, drop the calories notion, says Stanford. It's time to take a different approach, putting the emphasis on what's in the calorie, not on how many calories you're consuming. We don't rely on just one article or one study. Now let's go to a third one that's titled, Don't Bother Counting Calories. It's complete nonsense. Not my opinion, okay? Please understand that. Anyway, I'm not sure if, whatever. Anyway, okay. So this study, listen to this, inevitably, and notice I use the term more than, inevitably more than 95% of people will go back to their baseline weight and many will go above it. They rebound back if they're doing any form of calorie reduction diet. So here's 3 major articles saying that counting calories is completely obsolete. But let's go deeper. Now let's look at the big weight loss programs, okay? I heard it and I have lived it. Your body yeah, your body does talk to you. You just have to learn how to listen. I don't have much time left, laugh out loud, okay? Chemicals, yeah, okay. So let me read first. You know, one of the big rages right now, and I certainly see it on social media day in and day out, right, is time-restricted eating. Okay, what are they doing there? Well, they tell you don't eat for 16 hours and eat for 8. Code word, you're lowering calories. I mean, that's what it boils down to, right? So this is the Journal of the American Medical Association. Here's basically the excerpt from this big study they did on time-restricted eating for 3 months. Here's what they said. The Journal of the American Medical Association, new research found that overweight adults who were assigned to routinely fast 16 hours daily and eating all their meals between noon and 8 p.m., properly known as the 16-8 diet, gained almost no benefit from it. And over the course of 3 months, they lost 2 to 3.5 pounds, and most of the weight they shed was not body fat, but lean muscle mass. There's your Achilles heel to every diet. But again, we don't just rely on one medical study. We're going to show you more. Okay, the next one is in the New England Journal of Medicine, arguably the number 1 or 2 medical journal in the entire world, recognized around the world, right? So they did a 12-month study with 2 groups of people. Group number 1, lowering calories, the typical calorie in, calorie out. The second group did time-restricted eating. Don't eat for 16 hours, eat for 8. You tell me if you think these are so. But you understand this is real medical proof. These are not celebrity endorsements, opinions, athlete endorsements. This is medical proof, right? Peer-reviewed human trial studies with human beings, not with mice, not with rats, not a scientific paper, not a clinical study, but a human trial, right? So what did they find? The mean weight loss from baseline at 12 months for lowering calories was 16 pounds. Ladies and gentlemen, that's in a year. Then they went on to talk about time-restricted eating. Well, you tell me if it's good. In a year, it was 12.6 pounds. Again, that's not even the bad part. Here's the bad part. Both the time-restricted eating and daily caloric restriction diets led to the loss of lean muscle mass. That's every single diet. Okay, now maybe that's still not enough proof. Let's go a little bit deeper. Let's go and look at this big study in nutrients. And again, we're not making anything up. We're only reading from the studies. I'm the researcher of the researchers. That's what I've done for 21 years. Now, okay, so let's talk about this. So low carbohydrate diets are associated with reductions in muscle mass, but listen to this, and increased osteoporosis risk in obese individuals. They go on to say, reduced muscle mass is an established risk factor for osteoporosis and has been associated with functional impairment in obese individuals. So you went on a diet, you lost weight by lowering calories, and it increased your risk of osteoporosis. That sounds great to me. I mean, I'm being facetious, of course. Look, now we have medical proof of what's really going on. But all you have to do is look around. 80% of Americans are overweight. 50% are obese. 50% of Americans are pre-diabetic. Do you know how I'll tell you how this thing is accelerating. In 2018, they estimated 40, again, Mr. Padilla, I'm going to get there. Just give me a little bit more patience, okay? In 2018, 42% of America was overweight, right? Well, by this year, 2024, so 6 years later, it's 50%. So look, I mean, does anyone really think diets work if 80% of America's overweight? Now, let's get into what they did, and let's get into the medical studies. I know that's what everybody wants to learn about. But in the meantime, you'll see up there, thank you very much, whoever did that for me. The New Health Conversation is the name of our website. Now, why would you be interested in going there? Because all the medical evidence is there, and there's an extensive interview with the #1 nutritional researcher in the world, who he and his team conducted these studies. They're the #1 nutritional researchers for health and weight loss for almost 4 decades. And what they did was this. They, after 38 years, had looked at every fasting, time-restricted eating, paleo, keto, Mediterranean, Jenny Craig, Weight Watchers, Nutrisystem, okay? Well, what they found was on every one of these diets, whether it was fasting or whatever, processed food is only a small part of it, believe it or not. The bigger problem we're having is this, the TDOS syndrome. We're unwittingly, unknowingly, you're ingesting for example, they use about, there's 80,000 chemicals in commercial use in this country, and 2% have ever been tested for what they do to us as human beings. So it's way beyond processed food, okay? But let's come back to these 7 new peer-reviewed human trial studies. The reason they did the studies was not for weight loss. The reason they did the studies was because they realized that we are storing these chemicals in the body. The good news is that our body every single night detoxes. So when you go to sleep, as long as you didn't eat too late, your body slows down, stops nutrition, and turns on your natural detox mechanism, okay? Well, they wanted to see, would that be possible when people were awake? Well, the good news is blood, stool, urine, and fat analysis, they proved that this protocol, the first thing it was doing was removing chemicals from the body. Proven, not a projection. Oh, this is going to detox you. Really? Where's your medical proof on all these things that they're claiming, on social media? Okay, so what, as a result of that, and they didn't allow anyone to exercise because they didn't want exercise to be an outlier, people, men and women with no exercise, literally lost as much weight in 7 days as 8 weeks of any diet. And in a month, they lost the same amount of weight as people lost in a year on diets. But here was the difference. Not only didn't they lose water weight, they lost no lean muscle. They gained 6 to 9% lean muscle mass with no exercise allowed, right? Yes, Mary, the kidneys detox up to a point, but they're not equipped to deal with the herbicide. This is medical proof, by the way. Yes, the kidneys, obviously the 2 biggest filters in the body are the liver and the kidneys. But let me tell you what the chemicals are doing. Right now, Marty, we have 45% of the American population has non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. In 1975, there wasn't 1 case. What our liver's doing, it's the first line of defense for the chemicals, but it can't handle it. So what it's literally doing is fat is enrobing the chemicals, but now the liver, fatty liver disease is a big deal, and you're not even diet. Well, 45% of you on this right now have non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. Let's just start with that. Now, let's go back. What about muscle? Okay, I'm going to explain that to you. In these peer-reviewed studies, Marty, what was so amazing, no exercise allowed. And I'm going to tell you why and how, despite no exercise and losing weight 12 times faster than a diet, people gain 6 to 9% lean muscle mass with no exercise. I'm going to explain it in a moment, okay? But what I want to do is I want to explain to you, how did the researchers, after 38 years of analyzing every diet out there, they obviously had all the data. And what they found was every diet, no matter what the name was, people lost weight. But the weight loss was up to 40% lean muscle mass. And therein lies the underlying problem with all these diet, with calorie reduction. See, the human body doesn't know what a calorie is. And when you lower calories, you're really lowering the most important thing. The only thing that matters to our body is nutrition. And when you lower nutrition, the body finally figures out there's not enough fuel. It freaks out, immediately shuts down fat burning, and goes and looks for nutrition, not for calories. Where does it find it? In our organs. brain, kidney, liver, heart, but it starts in our muscles. It breaks our muscles down, converting them into carbohydrates. And then two of the most unhealthy things happen that could happen to anybody. Number one, because of the loss of lean muscle mass and not enough nutrition, the body does what? It slows down metabolism, but a very specific metabolism called your basal metabolic rate, which is the rate at which you burn calories when you're asleep or when you're resting, okay? That's number one. But the second thing that's even worse, it also absolutely interferes with your own immune system. In other words, it makes it less effective. So yeah, you may fit in your skinny jeans for a while and then you gain all the weight back, but you're doing something. See, when you lose lean muscle mass, the experts say, if you lose, let's say you lost 40 pounds on a diet, 20 pounds, and 40% of that's lean muscle, that's 8 pounds of lean muscle. The experts are saying to regain 1 pound of lean muscle, even if you go to the gym and eat healthy, it takes you about 8 months. So just to let everybody know, this is what we're talking about. Why diets are failing us, because they are. There's no doubt, it's not up for debate. And I'm showing you the medical evidence right now why that's going on. So again, when you lower calories, the thing you have to be guarding against is you're lowering nutrition. Well, the researchers knew that. So what did they do? Everybody's saying, what did they eat? What did they do? I'm going to tell you right now. So they realized that on all the diets they'd ever been on, if they lowered the quantity of food, people lost lean muscle mass. So they said, wait a minute, so let's try something different. The different was they only let the people in these medical studies, 40% of what they consumed was from the grocery store, okay? The other 60%, they had researched and found fulfillment companies that had been screaming this for years, that our food was becoming more and more nutritionally bankrupt. So these fulfillment companies had gone around the world. They'd gone to Russia, Mongolia, Manchuria, Tibet and the Himalayas, South America, New Zealand, to find foods, regardless of the number of calories, had tremendous amounts of nutrition. Okay, so now 40% of the food came from the grocery store and 60% came from these foods around the world. Now, what were the deficiencies, or what are the deficiencies in the food we have? The number one thing, yes, I'm trying to figure out the bottom line. I know it sounds good to be true. Again, Mr. Padilla, hang in there with me. And again, this is complicated. I would be ripping everybody off if I don't give you at least. But the other thing, Mr. Padilla, at the website, which is free to go to, and we won't even contact you, there's a breakdown, also a much more detailed breakdown than what I'm able to do for you on TikTok, because it is complicated, right? As a matter of fact, and the other thing, the reason we schedule a free consultation with you, we don't know anything about you. Do you want to gain weight? Do you want to lose weight? Do you exercise? Do you have any medical challenges, etc.? Okay, now let's talk about, so as I said, 40%, and we actually give you a grocery list that you can take to the grocery store. This was developed by the researchers, okay? Now, the second thing is these other foods that came from all over the world, yeah, loneliness is really a bad thing, okay? But now let me finish. So now we have the ingredients. But I was going to tell you about what's one of the things we're the most deficient in. Even if you eat organic, or what are called trace ionic minerals. Now you've heard of iron, calcium, magnesium. Okay, there are 70 of these trace minerals, which basically are the periodic table except for uranium and plutonium. You don't want to be consuming that. But there are things like gold and silver and zinc and molybdenum and boron, etc. Well, in the best organic food, with your best intentions, people tell me I eat, whole foods. It's all good. But out of 70, and what are minerals called? The spark plugs of life. They're the catalyst for every enzyme reaction in your body. And in case you don't know it, we're run by enzymes. So the fuel for that enzyme is a trace mineral. Well, the researchers, they knew this. They knew that even in the best organic they had given people before, they were getting 20 minerals. Well, what did they do? They found a source that contained all 70 trace ionic minerals. There was a big start. The second thing that they did, one of the things that were the most, why did they gain lean muscle mass? Okay, so now I'm going to give you all a lesson, which probably some of you may know. So one of the most important things in the human body, other than minerals, are what are called amino acids. There are 20 amino acids that 9 are called essential. You have to get them from your diet. 11 are called non-essential, all right? So Let me give you the good news, and then let me give you the scientific news. Number one, if you ingest a protein, be it from a plant or an animal, you get all 20 amino acids, including the 9 essential and the 11 that are not essential. So you would think, well, that's really good. Actually, that doesn't mean anything, okay? Because here's why. In Europe, it's been 8 or 9 years ago, they developed a test through blood, stool, urine, and fat analysis, where when you ingested a protein from a plant or an animal, you got all 20 amino acids. So you think, well, that's great. No, not really. What they determined through blood, stool, urine, and fat analysis was when you ingested proteins from plants or an animal, they could measure what percentage from 0 used by the body to 100% of the body, and it was pretty shocking. Okay, what they found was in vegan protein, like a pea protein, in this particular case they analyzed, the absorption of those amino acids was only 10%. I'm not trying to make vegans mad. That's just what it is. 90% of what they were consuming by doing a vegan protein was waste. They have a name. They're called nitrogen catabolites. Now let's move over to animal proteins, okay? Animal proteins are 30%. Steak, chicken, liver, fish, whatever. So you ingest a protein from animals, you're getting 30% absorption, okay? Well, one of the 9 essential amino acids is why you make muscle in your body, other than lifting weights or resistance training. It's called leucine. It's one of the 9, right? So bodybuilders will consume sometimes 2 grams or 2 ounces of protein for every pound they weigh. So let's say a bodybuilder is 250 pounds, they'll consume 500 grams of protein to do what? To get more of leucine. Well, you can imagine, so let's take, if they take in 500 ounces and it's say meat, chicken, liver, fish, they're only getting 150 grams, and then 350 grams their kidneys have to get rid of these nitrogen catabolites, which are called, not an opinion, this is what's going on, urea, creatine, ammonia, and glucose. Now, in the studies, the researchers found a source where the absorption of the amino acids was 91%. So now you can imagine the people in the studies who weren't allowed to exercise because they wanted to see what would happen if they got 91% of leucine. They gained 6 to 9% lean muscle with no exercise allowed at all. So no lifting weights, no running, no anything. And they even wore monitors to prove that they weren't exercising, because then it would have been a misleading study where you could have said, well, it was diet and exercise why they lost weight. Total hogwash, didn't work. Now, the other thing that was so dramatic about this, as it turned out, the food from the grocery store, plus these 5 foods from around the world, when they compared, because they did, in one of the studies, they compared, well, in all the studies, they compared to pretty much all of the diets that they looked at for, 20 years, right? Well, as it turned out, when they compared this to the Mediterranean diet, which has been the #1 rated diet for 7 years in a row in the United States, the people in this protocol, which is called R2M, it stands for race to maintenance, they consume more calories than the people in the Mediterranean diet. In the Mediterranean diet, it took people 8 months to lose 10.2 pounds, and 40% of what they lost was their lean muscle mass. Here, they lost 16 pounds in a month with no exercise. Instead of losing any water or lean muscle, they gained 6 to 9% lean muscle mass. Why? Because one of the foods they consumed was 91% absorbable of amino acids. Hopefully this makes sense to everyone, right? So the thing is, this is not a diet. And what else did they find, okay? Because it wasn't, as a matter of fact, we would tell you right now, don't do this to lose weight. That's not the reason. The reason to do it is to maximize your quality of life potential. So what else did they find? In the first 30 days, weight was only one of many things that happened. Blood pressure, blood sugar, cholesterol, triglycerides, all went down dramatically. Triglycerides went down 25% in 30 days with no exercise. Hunger went down 41%. But here was the other thing that was shocking to the researchers. Inflammation, which is the underlying cause, look at any medical book now, it's the underlying cause of every disease, went down 25% in 30 days. And as I said before, the visceral fat shrank by 33% in 8 weeks. Now, again, any of you can do whatever diet you want to go on. But I think we've presented enough evidence today to say, maybe I would be open to looking at something different. And if you go to our website, I'll put it up there again, or someone else can put it. This is the new health. Let me type it in for you, because you can go there for free. Okay, the new. Why can't I spell new? Oh, thanks for doing it. So you can see the new health conversation. It wasn't fast enough on my keyboard. And look, here's your opportunity. You don't have to go to the website. You can stick with whatever influencer you're following right now. And what are they telling you? The only way to lose weight is to lower calories. But here's the other part. How can you repeat what you taking for the results he just claimed? I'm not quite sure. How can you repeat what you take? Oh, okay. So I will repeat the whole process, okay? So for everybody's purposes, 70%, I'm sorry, the 7 peer-reviewed human trial studies, which were not based on a diet or a calorie counting, wasn't, okay? As I said before, the men and women in the studies were not allowed to exercise. And yet they lost as much weight in 7 days as 8 weeks of any diet. They ended up losing as much weight in 30 days as a year on any diet. How in the world did they do that? Well, number one, it wasn't a diet. Number two, it had nothing to do with calories or reducing calories. It had a new term that I want to familiarize with is it had to do with nutritional density. So instead of counting the calories, they made every calorie count. And as it turned out, the people consumed more calories than the people who were on the traditional diets. Okay, so what did they do? Number one, 40% of the food was a grocery list the researchers developed that people went to the grocery store, but only 40% of the food they typically bought. The other 60% came from 5 foods from around the world. And you can see there, you can go to the New Health Conversation and sign up for a free consultation. But let's stay on this track for just a moment. So the point is that 40% of the food from the grocery store, the other 60% came from as far away as Russia, Manchuria, Mongolia, Bangladesh, Tibet, literally Nepal and the Himalayas, South America, and New Zealand. Now, they went to the extreme ends of the earth to find foods that still had, regardless of the number of calories, the nutrition needed to maintain the body. Because when you go on a diet, as explained before, and you lower the calories, you're also lowering the nutrition. And when you lower the nutrition, the body freaks out and it won't burn fat. And then what it has to do, it will go looking for nutrition. It finds it in your muscles, breaks the muscles down, converts them into fuel, and then it slows down your metabolism. It doesn't have a choice. So it's not like the body will or won't. You drop below a certain level nutritionally, the body goes in freak out mode, starvation. It will burn your muscles for fuel, okay? Well, in the studies, what they were able to do is because of the quality of the calories they were consuming, people gained 6 to 9% lean muscle mass. And then they did now we have the ingredients, but we don't have the recipe yet. So what they did was 2 completely different ways of consuming food. One was called protein pacing. It was very specific, where it was not just that they were consuming protein, but protein in what quantities, at what times. So it completely destroys something like time-restricted eating, where they don't want you to eat for 16 hours and you eat for 8. Total nonsense. And the evidence proves that in the study that was done in the Journal of the American Medical Association, in 3 months, people on time-restricted eating lost 2 to 3.5 pounds, and they said most of what they shed was not body fat, but lean muscle mass. So let's blow that one out of the water, okay? So they did protein pacing. But the other thing they did, again, and I'm not misspeaking, was called intermittent nutritional fasting. Not fasting, not time-restricted eating, not water and lemon, not maple syrup, none of that nonsense stuff that has no basis in peer-reviewed human trial studies. It just doesn't, right? Those 2 things were what produced results that the researchers, after 38 years of analyzing every diet out there, supplements, exercise. They've worked with Navy SEALs, Green Berets, marathoners, weightlifters, CrossFit people, triathletes, and marathoners. They never suspected that anything would ever produce this, Because when they went into this, it wasn't with the idea it was going to be a weight loss program. They went in with the idea, could they stimulate the body's own natural detox mechanism to remove what we're storing inside of us? Herbicides, pesticides, Scotchgard, Teflon, cleaning products. This is what's going on for every one of you, for every one of us. And again, at any point, you can go to the New Health Conversation and you'll see the medical studies, both of traditional diets, we're being fair, peer-reviewed human trial studies, and of this R2M protocol. But you have to understand that no one, the researchers, they said, you know what they said? As a matter of fact, on the website, you can see an interview with the #1 nutritional researcher in the world, not me, who said the researchers, will never recommend to any of their patients again a traditional diet of lowering calories. Nobody. I mean, that's the top. And they've been looking for the silver bullet for 38 years. Don't we need the New Health Conversation? I mean, if we have 80% of America overweight and 50% obese and 50% of people are pre-diabetic and our kids, but you would think, well, that's just a problem in the United States. Well, wait till you hear this. This is done in the Lancet, which many consider the #1 medical journal in the world for years. This is a study they just concluded. It was published March 19th of this year, 2024, so 4 months ago. Wow, this is unbelievable. They said in the study, now more than 1 billion people worldwide are clinically obese, making obesity the leading form of malnutrition worldwide. What? Making obesity the leading form of malnutrition worldwide? Most people are not aware that obesity and being underweight are both forms of malnutrition, because in both cases, the people are not getting the right amounts of vitamins, minerals, nutrients, and the types of calories that are required to be healthy. I mean, go to Walmart, go to Kmart. It's really sad. Now, you might say, why am I such a crazy, mad researcher? You see, my mother was morbidly obese my whole life. I never knew her thin. I never knew her healthy, but I loved her. She was awesome. And 23 years ago, she called me up one day and said, you know, Peter, I have one wish in my life. I said, Mom, what's that? She said, I would give anything if I could just spend 24 hours thin. I said, wow, Mom, that's cool. Well, 6 months later, massive heart attack and stroke. I became enraged. My mom had done pretty much every diet that I'd ever heard of. She would even cut diets out of the National Enquirer or Reader's Digest. She did the grapefruit diet. She did the cabbage. She went to Jenny Craig Weight Watchers for years and years and years. She did fasting. She did OptiFast. She did everything. I'd see her lose 20 pounds and gain 25 pounds back. I'd see her lose 25 pounds and gain 30 pounds back. I believe, I can't prove it, but I believe she dieted herself to death. And I thought, you know, something's really, really wrong. And then, now it was my turn. 21 years ago, walking my doctor's office, my yearly physical. So my grandmother had died of basically high blood pressure. Now my mom had died of a massive heart attack and stroke. And I'm sitting there with my doctor. And I'd been an athlete. I'm not telling you this to impress you, but I do live in Colorado. I tried out for the Olympics in skiing a long time ago. So I thought I was invincible, right? Well, this morning, 21 years ago, my doc comes in and says, if you don't do something radically different today, when you walk out of here, you have about an 85% chance of a heart attack within 18 months. I went, what? I was 40 pounds overweight. My cholesterol was 400. My triglycerides were 300. And I went on diet, exercise, and drugs to lower my cholesterol. 8 weeks later, I went back for the follow-up blood work. I lost 8 pounds in 8 weeks, but my cholesterol only came down 15 points. And he says, I can't give you any more meds. That same day, I ran into a friend of mine by chance who had played professional football for the Oakland Raiders and turned me on to this whole concept about detoxification. I went on it. All I can tell you is this. I lost 12 pounds in 9 days, 20 pounds in 18 days, 30 pounds in a month, lost 40. This is my story, so I'm not making anything up here. I lost 40 pounds in 7 weeks. The next week, scheduled for my blood work, I go in and he follows up with me and he said, comes in and shows my chart down and says, you trying to kill yourself? I said, what are you talking about? He says, how much medication are you taking? I said, Doc, I haven't touched that stuff in 2 months. He said, well, the lab made a mistake. You see, my cholesterol went from 400 to 120. My triglycerides from 300 to 30. It's not a medical thing. That's my story. That's actually what happened to me. and my heart attack risk dropped from 85% to 15. And, here I am 21 years later. That's why I became a researcher. That's why because my doctor said, look, I've never seen anything like this. I said, well, you're not retesting me. And then anyway, it led me, I eventually was invited to a dinner because my story was pretty amazing 21 years ago, and got to meet the chemist that invented this. And he basically said to me, look, I know I've invented something going to change the world, and I need someone like you to tell the world about it. And I went, that's really great, except I don't even know what a calorie is. He said, I'll teach you. And that's how this whole thing started. Well, 4 books later, I've discovered, this TDOS syndrome, medical syndrome. This is also a really well received in the medical world book, Your Third Brain. That's not a trick title, written with one of the top oncologists in the world. I just feel so blessed. But all I did was I was really sort of neurotically curious, like hopefully some of you are. But what we've done by creating the new health conversation, it's a movement. It's not about going on a diet. But I want to share just a little bit more information before I close out this live. And I never want people just to believe me. This is a really good book called The New American Diet. I didn't write it. It was written by Stephen Perrin, editor-at-large at Men's Health. First, I want to talk to you about these chemicals that we're ingesting. They have a name. This will probably shock you. They're called obesogens. And they said, that's a scary word and one you've probably never heard before. But if you want to lose weight and keep it off for good and protect your body, your family, and your environment in the bargain, you'll need to understand the term. Simply put, obesogens are chemicals that disrupt the function of our hormonal systems, leading to weight gain and many of the diseases that curse the American populace. They enter our bodies from a variety of sources, from natural compounds found in soy products, from artificial hormones fed to our animals, from plastic pollutants in some food packaging, and from chemicals added to processed foods, and from pesticides sprayed on our produce. They act in a variety of ways, mimicking human hormones such as estrogen and blocking the action of other hormones such as testosterone, and altering the function of our genes and essentially reprogramming us to gain weight. What are you doing about this? What are you doing about this? I'm not sure what you want. Oh, sorry, this book. Sorry. Can you all see it? The New American Diet. That's really, really a good book. But it also is really in support of, the books. This is pretty important because this is a medical syndrome, registered trademark, U.S. Patent Office. It's not a copyright. This is now considered a medical syndrome. Now we know it exists, and now we have something based on these peer-reviewed studies. No diet has ever been proven to remove a gram of toxin from your body, period, right? Sure, Samantha, no problem. And I would also, of course, shameless plug for me is not only the TDOS syndrome, but also this book, Your Third Brain, and it's not a trick title. There's just so much evidence. It's just so exciting because for really 20 of the 21 years, despite 4 best-selling books, 20 shows on PBS, 1,500 lectures all over the world, the medical community didn't give a darn. Zero interest. Zero. None. Zero. Until a year ago when these peer-reviewed studies came out. Now I've got doctors left and right that are saying, look, this is what we've been waiting for. The reason that they were reluctant, or the reason they wouldn't do it in 20 years, was because they wanted to see proof. They wanted to see evidence. I mean, anybody can give you an opinion. This TDOS, TDOS. Okay, let me come back to it. T is for toxicity. The D is for nutritional deficiency. The O is for overweight, and the S is for stress. TDOS syndrome. It's a real syndrome. It's a registered trademark, U.S. Patent Office. Okay, so it's a really, really big deal. But I think the thing that would sort of culminate everything, these 21 years of research, is probably this study right here, which was done, I know you can't read it, the Journal of the American Medical Association. And here's the thing about diets. Remember, nothing I've shared with you today is my opinion. Nothing I've shared with you today is a claim. Everything we've read to you comes from peer-reviewed human trial. Yeah, diets don't work. Well, Mike, does the work when you take them? No. Well, no, I mean, I'll tell you right now, someone was asking me, Marty, about taking amino acids in a pill. it's fine. As a matter of fact, I'll give you the name. I have nothing to do with it, just to show you that I'm totally open, right? Called Pure My Aminos, or Pure Aminos, I think it's called. That's great, but here's the problem. The amino is just the amino. You still need the minerals. You still need the other botanicals, okay? So my point is that the combination, because there were people that had taken amino acids before in other studies and they never gained 6 to 9% lean muscle mass with no exercise. Because the other elements, remember, they had 70 minerals, they had botanicals, they had these foods from all over the world that had massive amounts of nutrition. So let me come back to this. So this study, which was, by the way, the title was Comparison of Weight Loss Among Named Diet Programs. What does that mean? They named all the major diets in the studies where they looked at not one, it's not like they did one study. They looked at 48 different, what are called 48 unique random peer-reviewed human trial studies, including 7,286 people, okay? Now in the studies, and they named paleo, keto, Mediterranean, time-restricted eating, fasting, the Cornish diet, the Zone diet, Atkins, Jenny Craig, Weight Watchers, all the major diets you would have heard of. So 12-month study. Here's all you needed to know. When they analyzed over the 48 studies, the weight loss results in 12 months, from the least amount of weight loss to the most amount of weight loss, was 10 ounces in a year. And about 40% of the weight loss was lean muscle mass. Now, also, just to let you know, and this is, I'm not against the shots. I think they're helping people, probably. But this is a big study in the New England Journal of Medicine. Again, we're not making a claim. We're just reading from the New England Journal of Medicine study on semaglutide. That's one of the GLP-1s. There's Ozempic, semaglutide. There's a bunch of them now, okay? I'm not against them if they can help people, because maybe they could have even helped my mom years ago. I don't know. But with everything, there's always, side effects. So let's look at the evidence. It was a 68-week study, 68 weeks, and the weight loss at 68 weeks was 34 pounds in 68 weeks. But back in the study, 40% of the weight loss was lean muscle mass. The shot is a way to lower calories. And all I'm saying to you is that these 7 period studies with no exercise, these people lost 16 pounds in a month. So, I think you can pretty much figure out that their weight loss, and there were people in here who needed to lose 150 pounds. There were people who needed to lose 20 pounds. There were people who didn't need to lose any weight at all. That's why we really encourage you to go to the website if you want to. The new, let me type it in there for everybody. New health conversation. Put it up there. I'll put it over here too. Okay. Now, the reason that I'm telling you about it, new health conversation, is because you have an option to go there for free. There's no tricks. There's no twisting your arm. There's no bait and switch. There's not anybody on an 800 number. You go there, you get a free consultation, and it's free. I have people, on this saying, how much is a free consultation? And I just go like, really? I know it sounds too good to be true. Someone said that before, and I support you in that. I support you in your skepticism. But here's what I think can ease your skepticism. And that is that these 7 peer-reviewed human trial studies, which are really the culmination of 38 years of research by the researchers, right? When you have a peer-reviewed human trial study, it's irrefutable. That's why no drug ever gets approved without a peer-reviewed human trial study. So you have the opportunity to go to that website. You won't be harassed. You won't be bugged. I'll promise you, we won't contact you. We will not. And if you sign up for free consultation, we're interested to give you answers. What if you want to gain weight? What if you want to lose weight? What if you got some challenges? Okay. We have one gentleman that had a heart transplant about 6 or 8 months ago. Well, that's going to be a little bit different program than just somebody although he needs to lose about 60 pounds. And that's a real challenge with a heart transplant. Well, he's thriving. Okay. That's all I can tell you. But we have kids as young as 2 doing this. We have grandmas in their 90s. The reason we do the free consultation, if you like what you see on the website, because we don't know anything about you. What do you want us to just tell you? Hey, here's 3 recipes. I mean, you can do that. There's plenty of people on TikTok that'll allow you to do that. That will let you 3 recipes to lose weight, 10,000 steps. Here's how to get calorie deficit. I saw one of the influencers coming on, and the only way to lose weight is a math calculation. I don't know what to say, and I'm not going to disparage the person, but I just come back. Have you ever seen any of them showing you one shred of medical evidence about what they're telling you? So I would just say that you have an incredible opportunity if you choose. You don't have to do it. But aren't you just a little bit curious? I mean, even if you're skeptical, you can go there with no hassle, no, we're not going to twist your arm. We're not going to do anything that if we have to convince you, then we think we've done something wrong. You go look at that medical evidence, you go and look at those before and afters, which you swear you'll think they're photoshopped. You'll see people who lost tremendous amounts of weight, no loose skin. I can't even show you the pictures on TikTok because they don't want you showing before and after pictures. I respect that. But when we have the medical proof and nobody else does, doesn't that make you a little bit curious? Just a little bit. So, someone was commenting over there, diets don't work. Ironically, Marty, that was the title of my first book was Why Diets Are Failing Us. You can look it up, etc. And the 4 books are Why Diets Are Failing Us, The TDOS Syndrome, The TDOS Solutions, and Your Third Brain. Now, one other thing I want to emphasize that I guess I don't think I went over this with you. Back to this really good book, The New American Diet. So how was it that the people in these 7 studies consume more calories than people on any other diet, and yet they lost weight 12 times faster than any diet, right? Thank you, Samantha. I've worked really hard to do this, okay? And Samantha, please understand, you see this is what people call me. I'm the researcher of the researchers. So what I'm doing for you, Samantha, is you don't have to spend the 10,000 hours of research, 500 books I've read. I've flown, Samantha, not trying to impress you, but I've flown over 2 million miles just on United, meeting these world-class experts. The other thing I'm proud of, Samantha, I've done, well, Samantha, please, for your family, okay, go to the website, sign up for the free consultation, and it'll just open your eyes to the possibilities, okay? We know that, I guess as long as I'm going down this path, I'll share one more story with you about why I'm so motivated to do this, okay? I already told you that in 23 years ago, I lost my mom to a massive heart attack and stroke, being morbidly obese. Well, in 2010, my younger brother was diagnosed with kidney cancer. And I was on the journey with him. And before he went into hospice, which he ended up doing, I was in his hospital room. It was actually a Saturday night, just like now, a little bit over, it happened in June of 2010, right? And so it was sort of ironic. He said, he knew I was going to come that night. We're going to spend a bunch of time together. And he said, will you bring me a beer? Yeah, I think his name was Patrick. I said, yeah, Patrick, I think I can sneak in a beer. And if the nurses don't like it, he was going to go into hospice on Monday. So we were sitting there, as you can imagine. He knew that he was going into the hospice. And if you've ever experienced that, you know that that's probably not going to end well. Anyway, we were sitting there, and I was lecturing at that point probably 50 weeks a year. And that Monday, this was Saturday night, Monday morning, he said, I said to him, look, Patrick, I'm scheduled to go to New York and Boston and the East Coast and Washington, D.C. to deliver a bunch of lectures. And I said, but I'm going to cancel so I can spend time with you. And he said, sat up in bed and pointed at me. He says, Peter, you don't sit here and watch me. He said, you go out there, and if you can make a difference in one person's life, you do it for me. Well, I left on Monday morning, and Friday afternoon, about 6:30 Eastern time, I got a phone call from his wife. He was in hospice. He was on a morphine pump. He was really struggling. And she said, please talk to him. And so I did. I don't even know if he heard me. I said, don't worry about your wife. Don't worry about your daughter, whatever. And that was 6:30, and I went on stage at 7, and he passed away at 7:15 while I was on stage. So Samantha, you might be that one person. I mean, obviously there have been lots, but my motivation really comes from my mom, obviously from my story, and obviously from Patrick's story. And I wrote in one of my books, I think it was in TDOS Solutions. Let me look it up here. Let's see if it's in here. No, I think it's in Your Third Brain. I think it is. I just want to read this quote so I get it correctly. No, maybe it is that. But anyway, let me keep talking. So he was a huge influencer in my life to go out and do this, despite the slings and arrows and the various things that, go on. And I just feel that this is what I'm supposed to do. And, I certainly get my critics, which is understandable, but we can really make a difference in this world. And so even on this podcast tonight, there aren't many people. That doesn't matter. I used to always start my lectures, and I'll say this to all of you with all due respect. Some of you on this podcast tonight, your lives will never be the same again. Not because of Peter Greenlaw, but because of the knowledge that I've been able to bring to people like you, Samantha, and lots of other people. We're not fooling around here. This isn't about trying to convince people or trying to twist their arm or trying to do anything other than, just explore the outer perimeters of what's now possible that we never even knew existed, right? And I just feel like somebody has to do this. Somebody, just so happens that somebody is me. And I get people that say everything from, I don't know, it's just, I just have learned a long time ago that other people's opinion of me is none of my business. And so, Samantha, nothing would make me happier if we could help you and your family and others. I guarantee you, there are people on here right now that their lives really, not because of me, right? I'm going to say that over and over again. It has nothing to do with me. But my brother, wow, that was, every time I have an incredible, intervention with people, I just think of Patrick. See, here's the difference for you, Samantha, and everybody else. If you choose to go to the website, if you sign up for free consultation, if you do, and of course I would never promise nothing's 100%. But what you get, what my brother never got, was a do-over. And I really believe that part of what we've done is we've been able to basically make people aware of something they're just not aware of. Yeah, longevity, Samantha, you're exactly right. But again, you get to, and or your family, if you choose, you get to you get to hit the do-over. That happened to me. It was my mom, no, my brother, no, but I was fortunate enough to, that friend of mine that played professional football for the Oakland Raiders, we're still friends today. I just feel like, my gosh, what he did for me was just insurmountable. And we've been able to transfer that to other people. So anyway, I want all of you to just think about it. If you'd like, you can go to the New Health Conversation or not. I hope you're at least curious enough. Even if you're skeptical, that's fine. But, I feel like we're having a fireside chat right now, because on some of these podcasts, we get really, really big audiences. But again, it always comes down to, if I can make a difference in one person's life, I always think about my brother, what he said to me. And every time we see it happen, it's really, 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 so I call it the psychic income. And it's sort of like, I just feel so lucky that I got to do this. Well, number one, I got to hit the do-over button. So many people don't. And it's really sad that I think my term is that there are so many people in the world now. Somebody was talking about loneliness before. I talk about they're living a less than lifestyle. And they don't know what to do about it, as hard as they try. So my sort of wishful conclusion to this podcast is that you have an opportunity to hit the do-over button. No matter what your challenge, maybe you want to gain weight. Maybe you don't care about losing weight. Maybe you've got some medical, maybe just you want to sleep better at night. Maybe you want to lower stress in your body. Maybe you just want to do something. See, doing nothing about TDOS probably isn't going to lead to a really great outcome with all the, the medical. Here's another quote from the CDC that said, each of these chemicals acting on its own is a potential toxic problem for human health. But multiple chemicals acting together presents a mind-numbing research challenge for the CDC, for the chemical industry, an independent research team that would attempt to undertake this challenge. There would literally be hundreds of thousands of combinations of chemicals. There's synergistic interactions to measure and evaluate for toxicity and their impact on human health. We didn't even talk about that. It's not just that you're storing, let's say, 1,000 or 1,500 chemicals. Chemical reactions are going on in the body. It's just a fact. So I want to wish all of you a wonderful evening. I do, on average, anywhere from 3 to 5 of these podcasts a day, as long as my voice can hold out. I hope you would maybe go to my TikTok site and like it or whatever, and or sign up, and because I think they notify you. I don't understand all that works. I'm new to this whole thing, but hopefully it can really, really make a difference for some of you. So I would hope that you would go to the New Health Conversation. You can see it there. And if you like what you see, sign up for free consultation. So I want to wish all of you a good night and to better health for everybody. Okay. Thank you all very, very much.